Welcome to the greenhouse today. We're out here in March and we're looking at this potato field. So these two rows that are under these strings are 80 feet long. They go all the way from the worm bin to the end of the greenhouse. And I planted 2 rows of potatoes all the way down. So behind me, you can see the lettuce, spinach, kale, beets, and green onions that we planted during winter boot camp. And those are just now starting to take off. Things don't grow well in the winter. I'm happy those are growing. They're doing very good. And then later, it's been about 3 weeks ago, I came in and I planted potatoes. And the potatoes are doing pretty good. So they're planted shallow, so as they grow, I'll need to add more material around them, like compost, detritus sphere, whatever I have. But I just like to look at the potatoes and see how they're doing. Most of these potatoes are an early variety so that we can get a quick harvest. So I have Yukon Golds in here, and I have the Red Norlands in here because they tend to mature pretty quick. So why grow potatoes in a greenhouse? We grow our main potato crop outside, and we have a root cellar full of potatoes. We have a lot of potatoes, but we have a lot of people eating the potatoes too. So what we want to focus on is to have enough potatoes so we never run out of potatoes for the whole year. So in the summertime, while our outside potatoes are still growing that we're going to plant this spring, if we run out of last year's potatoes in the greenhouse, in the cold room, root cellar, then what we want to do is have potatoes in here that will be growing to keep us going through the summer. Because we could run out of potatoes in June, and then we would be waiting July, August, and then at the end of August we start harvesting. So we want this crop to tide us over. Now, do we think that it's like financially viable to grow potatoes in a greenhouse? Not really. Not if you were going to be producing a crop to sell, because potatoes don't sell for very much. And you don't get that much per square footage in the greenhouse. They do produce more pounds per acre than any other food crop, but I don't think it would pencil out to grow potatoes and try to sell them in your system, like in your young business. But that's not why we're doing it. We're doing this because we don't want to run out of food, because our goal is to produce our own food. Why? Because we're eccentric and we like it that way. So here's a potato right here. So I'm going to just very gently lift this out of the soil so we can take a look at it. Now you can see all the white roots. They look like big spider legs coming out of here. And then there's little green shoots right here, and these shoots are turning green because they're above the soil. This one here is more on it's still yellow and white because it was under the dirt. And so if we remove a little bit of this, you can see the roots real nice that are. So this is a Yukon Gold that I cut into 4ths or 5ths, and I tried to make sure there was an eye on each piece we put under. So this is growing very nicely. I'm very happy with this growth on this potato. So the only reason I picked it up is to show you that they're growing. But I will pick them up from time to time, because if I came in here and I picked one up, nothing's happening. Pick up the next one, nothing's happening. I pick up 10, nothing's happening. I need to replant because something's wrong. If you don't see growth within a couple of weeks, something's wrong. Now, if it was cold, the cold temperature will keep them from growing. That doesn't mean they're not going to grow. It means they're not growing yet. But the temperatures in here have been obviously right for them to take off and grow. So I'm going to replant this little guy right here. Try to be gentle with him and not mess anything up. And I'm not putting them deep on purpose because I want them to take off and grow quickly. And the outside, you would bury them a lot deeper. So let's move down the greenhouse and see how the potatoes look on that end. Because this end, I planted about 2.5 weeks ago. But down here on this end, I planted these about 4 weeks ago. And so let's take a quick look and see what we're going to do here. I'm going to move the camera off my tripod so that you can get a good close-up of what's happening. So here's the beginning of the garden, and I'm going to zoom this up, and you can see the kale and so the kale is right here, and the potatoes right there, just coming up. And then that's a beet, and that is a weed that's coming up. I need to remove that. And so it's actually a mullein. We could let it grow as a medicinal herb, but I have a lot of those. And I don't really want it taken over because it's big there and it'll crowd out my vegetables. But this potato is growing. The little green shoots are coming real good. I'm going to do a super big close-up now. You can see the potato itself right in the center, and the shoots are coming up right there. So there it is, and there it is far away. So as we move up, I planted these about every 16 inches. So there should be another one right in here, and I didn't know it was coming up, but I can see it now. And so I'm gonna point at it. I'm gonna move this stick, and this is it right here. So it is coming up. So there it is. And then the next one is pretty easy to see. It is right there, right in the center of the screen. So that one's coming up. And then as we move up to the next one, we have the hole in the ground that I dibbled to put the potato in there. And I don't see anything coming up yet. So let's investigate, because right now, if this is not growing, which it is. So there's the leaf right there. I'm going to do a close-up view so you can see that guy. Right there, the little leaf. And there's that. And we'll come all the way out with the zoom. And you can hardly see him, but he is in there and he is growing. And so that leaf is much smaller because it was deeper in the ground and it didn't have the warmth during the day. The next one is right there, and it's quite a bit bigger. And it's surrounded by kale and spinach. And we're going to zoom in all the way. So there he is right there, and there's a weed coming up right next to him. And I didn't even see that weed until I zoomed it up. So that's pretty fun to look at it through the camera. But what I was going to say is, if you don't have these guys coming up, and we find one that's not coming up, right now is when we replant. So if I dug down in and I found a rotten potato, see, here's a hole that doesn't have anything. Okay. Let me zoom up on that, because now that I'm digging, I can see him. So here he is right here. So this one's coming up. So right there. So that's him. He's growing good. So I want to check all of these and make sure that they're all coming up. So here, there should be one right here. I don't see anything yet. And if you rub this hard, it can break off the stem, slow down your growth. So you don't want to do that. There's an earthworm. Okay, so I'm not seeing any growth here. Get a little bit more aggressive. And this might not even be where the potato is planted, but it's spaced about right. It should be here. Oh, here's a potato right there. He's growing right there. Let's see. From here, let me get my mud up here on my camera. Muddy fingers. So from right here, the potato here, to the potato here, that's perfect spacing. So this little hole here was a false alarm. That was not the hole where I actually had planted it. But anyway, that one's growing. And here, that one's growing. But there's one in the center here. So where would center be? So right there's the potato. And yes, he has a green shoot right here. So it looks like, so far, 100% are coming up. So I will probably give this one more week. And then I will come in here and I'm going to do a good look at these to see if any of them are missing. And if they are, like, missing means that they're not growing. The potato rotted or it's just not growing. Then I will put in one of my pre-sprouted ones that's in the house. So this is what the potatoes look like inside the greenhouse in the middle of March. Hopefully this helps you to have a fantastic winter potato patch.